what is the process for being able to transfer what's already in the form of, an online course into a book? What are some of the parallels? What are some of the challenges they might face? How does one begin to even think about that?
Well, I think that there are a number of parallels in the way the content is structured. We can get into the logistics of that in a moment. I do think that books are a unique medium because they are an immersive experience, very much like courses where there's multiple senses involved, especially if people are reading paper books. However, I think that there's a different approach that people take when they're engaging with books. Like when you're engaging with a course, you're doing so generally in a format where you're alert, you're paying attention, maybe you're actually executing on the suggestions as you're listening to the course. There's more of I'm here to learn and I'm here to have an experience of learning and I'm here to solve a problem.
Yes.
Most people, when they pick up a nonfiction book, they're in that mindset. But when they start reading, there is an immersive quality that happens, particularly if the stories are really good. Yes. And it's the experience of diving into someone else's words and hearing their voice, whether it's your imagination of their voice or actually hearing their voice in an audio format or, some mixture of the two. It's like they're speaking directly to you, but your brain is free to imagine all of the different scenarios that are being described. And so there's an imagination component that gets brought into it. And what I find is that story is the best medium out of any medium for teaching people some sort of lesson. It's ingrained into our human development. Story has been used as a teaching format since basically the dawn of humanity. And the reason it works is because story evokes emotion. And when we have an emotion attached to information, we are much more likely to remember it. You're much more likely to remember a piece of information from your high school history class if there was a funny moment with your teacher or some sort of funny anecdote that they created or some sort of profound story that was told that related to the material at hand. Like if you think about the moments you remember from school, it's always that, right? There's some sort of emotional component that made your brain go, oh, pay attention to that information. And so the reason I love the medium of books so much is that people get to immerse themselves in a story, and then the information is tailored to reflect the story and the lessons of the story. And so there's an emotional, oh my God, I felt like that before. Oh, wow, I really, I remember something like that happening to me. And then you're engaged. So when the information is presented and you're imagining it playing out in your mind, depending on what kind of learner you are, that may look different. But there's now an attachment to the information. Yeah. And so I do find that when books are well crafted, they take all of the best elements of courses, which is all of the beautiful, well-ordered learning, and they pair it with this emotional component. And there's not a lot of other formats where you can do that in a way that people will engage their imaginations with, right? So, yeah, and the engagement of the imagination is something I think is kind of undervalued. It's when we are playing out scenes in our mind that aren't actually being directed to us, it becomes more ours. And this may not be true for everybody. I know it's highly true for me. And I know that it's highly true for a number of people that I've spoken to about this over the years. So when we're talking about, the value of books, I see books as a gift from the author to their audience. Yeah. Here, I'm going to give you this gift of my words, of my energy, of my story, of my emotion, of my content, of my expertise. And you now get to spend 10 or 15 or 20 hours sitting with me in this place at your own pace, whether it's on the beach or reading in bed at night or whatever it is, but you're in this intimate space with them. And I don't know about you, but anytime I hear people talk about their favorite authors, it's like they're talking about their best friends.
You're right. Yeah.
So I think that there's just something special about books for me in that way. And are they learning tools? Yes.
Yeah.
Are they emotional connection tools? Yes. Are they more useful for some consumers than others? That is also true. If you're a visual learner, video may be far easier for you to digest than a book. If you're a kinesthetic learner, reading an actual paper book is a great way to cement those memories because you have multiple senses engaged. If you're an auditory learner, right, audiobook. But there's just something to be said, I think, about the deep relationship that can emerge from that volume of content put together in one package.